The U.S. exit of Afghanistan is coming under scrutiny. The State Department's Watchdog organization is conducting a review. Facebook is set to pay $15 million in civil penalties in settlement with the DOJ over claims of alleged discrimination against U.S. workers. The Supreme Court sides with police officers in two qualified immunity cases. This comes as the debate over vaccine mandates in police departments continues across the country. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. The United States exit from Afghanistan is being placed under closer scrutiny. The State Department's Office of Inspector General notified leaders it is looking into the suspension of operations in Kabul. The probe will reportedly include reviews of the embassy's emergency action planning, execution of the Afghanistan Special Immigration Visa Program, and the evacuation from Kabul. The exodus earlier this year was criticized by both Republicans and Democrats as being too rushed. A spokesman for the OIG says the work should be considered reviews and not investigations. Over the past few weeks, some high-profile members of the Biden administration, including Secretary of State Antony Blinken, testified about the withdrawal in front of congressional committees. This comes as the State Department also says the top U.S. envoy to Afghanistan is stepping down. He was born in Afghanistan and held the post since 2018. He spearheaded the negotiations with the Taliban that led to the agreement for the withdrawal of U.S. forces. He was excluded from the Biden administration's first formal talks with the Taliban after the U.S. pullout. Current and former U.S. officials told Reuters that the envoy became the face of one of the largest U.S. diplomatic failures in recent memory. Now, what about Americans still in Afghanistan? According to NBC News Connecticut affiliate, 43 Connecticut residents still stuck in Afghanistan. Chris George, executive director of IRS, or the Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services, says their school teachers are calling me, asking me where are the students. The 10-year-old student from New Haven who is stuck in Kabul is sending me voicemail messages. And an Army veteran of Afghanistan is working to get people out. He tells the outlet he believes over 1,000 Americans still remain trapped. And earlier this month, the Los Angeles Times published this article titled, "There Are California Students Still Stuck in Afghanistan After the Taliban Takeover." According to the San Juan Unified School District, dozens of families from the Sacramento area are still in Afghanistan. Recently, 3 families, including 7 students, made it back to the U.S., but about 38 students are still there. The nearby Sacramento City Unified School District told the Los Angeles Times at that time that an Afghan immigrant family with 3 children enrolled there sought help in fleeing. The students have not yet returned to school. And Senator Richard Blumenthal's office reportedly is tracking around 800 Americans there. While the Taliban told the U.S. they would allow those with the right paperwork to leave, what about those without the right paperwork? A former U.S. military translator in Dallas tells Senator John Cornyn of Texas that many of the Afghans still in the country don't have the special immigrant visas, adding almost everybody is in danger now. But the State Department has planned to resume regular evacuation flights from Afghanistan before the end of the year. A senior State Department official told the Wall Street Journal, "As soon as we have the right combination of documentation and logistics, we will get going again." Adding the reason there's no exact date is because it's still working through logistics with neighboring countries. Now, speaking of Senator Blumenthal, let's turn to an update on Facebook. Congress grilled the tech giant earlier this month. That's after reports by the Wall Street Journal found troubling studies where Facebook and Instagram harmed teens, especially girls, over body image. At the hearing, Senator Richard Blumenthal warned that Facebook faces a reckoning akin to other industries like big tobacco. That's when the tobacco industry tried to hide information that cigarettes caused cancer. But that's not the only area Facebook has found itself in the hot seat. Facebook has settled a discrimination lawsuit with the Department of Justice. The social media giant will have to pay $15 million in civil penalties. The money will go to U.S. citizens allegedly denied the chance for employment because Facebook reserved jobs for temporary visa holders. The company reserved those jobs for a labor certification program. It was also accused of using recruitment methods to deter U.S. workers from applying to certain positions. Facebook and the DOJ Civil Rights Division will determine a list of individuals eligible for compensation. The company also has to change the way it handles permanent labor certification program job offerings. And anti-discrimination protocol training will be required for Facebook employees. Now, let's turn to the highest court. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday ruled in favor of police officers seeking qualified immunity from allegations of excessive force. In both cases, the justices overturned lower court decisions that went against the officers. Qualified immunity is a legal doctrine that shields law enforcement from liability for constitutional violations. Plaintiffs had argued that officers used excessive force. The first case took place in California. A lower court found that a California officer could face lawsuits for placing his knee on the suspect. The suspect was lying on the ground and was awaiting arrest for allegedly threatening his girlfriend. The Supreme Court overturned the decision. The second case took place in Oklahoma. There, a lower court had ruled that two officers could be sued. That's because their actions had allegedly escalated the situation before the fatal shooting of a hammer-wielding man in the city of Tahlequah. In August of 2016, the officers responded to a woman's 911 call. She said her ex-husband was intoxicated in the garage and wouldn't leave. A video released by the Tahlequah police showed the two officers repeatedly asking the woman's ex-husband to drop a claw hammer he had grabbed off the garage wall before they shot and killed him. The Supreme Court also overturned this decision. Critics say the doctrine is not grounded in the proper legal authorities and too often shields officers from accountability. Calls for the court to take a substantial new look at the doctrine intensified after the death of George Floyd. Now, speaking of police, let's touch on the continuing debate among police departments over vaccine mandates. Around the country, some police officers and unions are pushing back against them. In Chicago, about 4,500 police officers didn't report their vaccination status by October 15th, as mandated by the city. In Massachusetts, the head of the Troopers Union says state police are missing nearly 600 uniform members because of their refusal to comply with the vaccination mandate. Massachusetts moved preemptively to offset possible staffing shortages among state troopers by calling up its National Guard to assist in prisons if needed and to administer COVID tests to kids in schools. As of Monday, the deadline day, the governor's office says 90% of state police have submitted their vaccine records. In Seattle, the police union's president said the force lost some 300 officers over the past 18 months. Seattle's police department had an 82 vaccination rate last Friday. That's 3 days before the deadline. And the city's public schools canceled about 140 bus routes, fearing too few vaccinated drivers. In Washington state, a trooper filmed his final call after refusing to comply with the mandate. And the Baltimore Police Union is telling officers not to reveal their vaccine status because of, quote, collective bargaining issues. That's according to the Baltimore Sun. Concerns over staffing shortages in the face of mandates are mounting. The question now is, what could continued clashes mean for public safety? The governor of Illinois says state police are available if officers don't comply with vaccine mandates.
Well, we have offered to any municipality who asks the ability to request state police and, in the event of some serious emergency, National Guard. But in most cases, state police, and we have, in fact, deployed them when asked over the last 18 months, and will continue to make that offer. The truth is that, as you, I think, know, we have about 1,900 state troopers for the state of Illinois. We have 57,000 square miles that they're responsible for. And so we have deployed hundreds when asked, when needed. And we would continue to do so. But we also have responsibilities everywhere in the state, so we need to make sure that we're carrying out those responsibilities.
And now, before we end, amateur astronomers will have a lot to see in the night sky this week. NASA says the next full moon, called the Hunter's Moon, will be visible Wednesday night. The Hunter's Moon usually appears after the Harvest Moon, which is autumn's first full moon. It can usually be seen in October or November. According to the Farmer's Almanac, the Hunter's Moon is a sign it's time to hunt in preparation for the winter ahead. The moon will appear full for about 3 days, starting October 20th. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning into Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.